We're talking about 58-year-old Tyson and Jake Paul. What's your predictions?
Well, I just feel this fight is. And then when my mom passed away, I kind of like just gave up on life. And
how old were you then?
10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that's got to be unbelievable, right? To have the one anchor you have in your life,
right,
to be kind of
gone. Yeah.
So you must be floating around and not having any direction.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be, for me, number one out of everything, whether it's training, everything, the mindset has to be there, because all the fights, that my mindset was sharp, like positive, great, everything went, mindset is strong. I didn't lose any of those fights, and so mindset is top. My number one thing is, you gotta, like I always say, one of the things growing up that I built is, but so to be not only fight there, but to win my third world title there was very exciting.
What type of emotions went through when you held that belt for the first time?
I cried all three times. All three times that I fought when I won my world titles, I cried. And also, sentimental, because every time I was there, I had my mom there and stuff like that. So I knew a lot of emotions going on and stuff like that.
She was there all three fights.
All three times.
100%.
Yeah.
Why don't you hold those belts up so the viewers can see it? Hey, and welcome to the Apex Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Bob GTMD, and I'm here as always with my co-host,
Dennis V. How are you today, Bob?
I'm fantastic, man. We got a challenge going on right now. We're about halfway through 4 weeks of an 8-week challenge. We got a bunch of challengers in there, a bunch of people who want to transform. We're going to be picking a winner on December 23rd.
Let me tell you, they brought it. They've brought the heat. We've had mini challenges. We're in the middle of a 100 push-up challenge, 100 squats. We had the 5K
a day
walk for the week, or walk or run or whatever. And there's going to be an even bigger one coming up next week. So everybody's bringing it and getting ready for the holidays. It's great.
And then we've had some really cool prizes too. Like we had a gift certificate to First Form, I think it was $100 or something like that. And then we had a pair of shoes, like a gift certificate for some Hokas. We had one of our Apex Lifestyles hoodies that was up there, and now we have a Shocks open ear headphones.
Oh, that's good. Good carrots for winning a little mini challenge.
Just doing what you're supposed to do anyway, right? Like and being healthy, right? So it's the becoming undeniable challenge. It's all about becoming undeniable, putting in the work, living life at the apex as we do. And that being said, Dennis, we have an incredible guest tonight.
You can't get better than who's sitting in the chair to my left.
Right? So we have a 3-time world champion boxer, welterweight, heavy welterweight. And Dennis, why don't you bring him in?
Jose Rivera, I have followed your story for years, being a resident of Worcester. How not only, as Bob said, you're a 3-time world champion, you are a pillar of the community, you're a role model for many. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Great having you. We followed you for years, and you're a champion.
Thank you.
Yeah, to be around greatness. I mean, we have some pretty big artillery sitting on the table when you show them up at some point right now, right? But yeah, welcome, man. I mean, you've lived life at the apex like we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
You started your life in the fighting city of Philadelphia, right? Famous for boxing, right? But you didn't really start boxing there, right?
No, I didn't.
So take us there. Take us, like, how old were you when you made your way to Massachusetts, and how did that happen, right?
So I was made in Puerto Rico.
Okay. All right. There you go.
My mom and dad, well, my dad moved out first because we have family in Philadelphia, but he had the place ready. She was about 8 months pregnant, and the 3 other kids they had, I was their fourth. I was the youngest of the 4 kids that my mom and dad had, and she moved to Puerto Rico with us, me and her belly and the other 3, and I ended up being born in Philadelphia. I lived there for about a year and a half or so. Mom and dad got divorced, some issues, domestic violence issues. She actually had lost her kids. We were in like a temporary foster home because there was some, like I mentioned, domestic violence. I ended up in the hospital, and stuff like that. And she had to make a choice. She was going to fight for her kids or stay in an abusive relationship. And luckily for us, she left my dad and fought for us, and about close to 2 years old, she migrated to Massachusetts, where my grandfather lived in Westfield at the time, lived and stuff, and we got closer to Worcester. Went from Westfield to Holyoke, then Springfield, and then I ended up in between a lot of travels, Florida, New Mexico, Philadelphia, all these places. I ended up in Worcester at 16 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm assuming you met some of the people that Dennis and I know, being from Worcester, right? And
oh, definitely, I'm sure.
Did take us to the first time you went, you started boxing.
So how it happened for me was I started boxing. I fell in love with the sport of boxing at 7 years old. I saw on TV Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran.
One of my favorite boxers.
Great fighters.
Yeah. One of my favorites is Sugar Ray.
It was the first fight for the BA championship, and it was the welterweight championship. I don't know the BCWBA, and just when Roberto Duran upset Sugar Ray Leonard and he was in the middle of the ring, it was with belts. I was like, wow, I want to do that. And at 7, you don't know the sacrifices and the work it takes. You just in your mind says, I want to do that. And then when my mom passed away, I kind of just gave up on life. And
how old were you then?
10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that's got to be unbelievable, right? To have the one anchor you have in your life,
right,
to be kind of
gone. Yeah.
So you must be floating around and not having any direction.
Yeah, exactly. You just feel like life is over, because what are you gonna do now? It's like everything you put your hope on is not there anymore. What's gonna be next? And at 10 years old, you cannot comprehend a better way.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of struggles. I moved around a lot. I had this family member, that family member, that family member, this family member, Puerto Rico back, and then eventually ended up with my mom's sister, who, God bless her, she took me in, and I put her through a lot, because, again, I rebelled. I was angry and got involved with the wrong crowd and stuff. But eventually I found a friend who had as much passion for boxing as I did.
Okay.
And I was at the gym at the Boys and Girls Club in Springfield, and he picked me up. I was at basketball practice, and he said, "Hey, I found a boxing gym." I said, "No way." Get ready for basketball practice, and then I told the coach, "I gotta go. I'll be back."
Yeah.
So I went with him, and we went to the Dunbar Community Center in Springfield, Mass, which is still there, but the boxing program is no longer there. And Cisco Sayas was the trainer at the time there, and we walked in, and I never walked out. It just fell in love with it, and so it was almost like my happy place.
Yeah.
Where I can just let out a lot of frustration and a lot of anger, but more so I was doing a lot of dreaming, visions. It just made me work harder and train harder and work harder and train harder. And then I used to come to Worcester maybe twice a month, because when my mom passed away, there was 5 of us, and two of my brothers and sisters two sisters, one brother ended up in Worcester. One brother stayed in Puerto Rico, and I was in Springfield. And I used to come visit my sisters and my little brother about twice a month. And they knew I was started a boxing program in Springfield, and they said, "Oh, you should check out the Ionic Gap Boys and Girls Club. I heard they have a great boxing program." And then they showed me a newspaper article, and it was of Bobby Harris and Jerome Johnson and all these guys that were traveling and going to regionals and nationals, and I was like, wow. In Springfield, I was just training.
Yeah.
I wasn't really getting this type of experience. I said, man, I would love to do that. So I did one of my trips that I planned to come to Worcester. I didn't come to visit my sisters or anything. I just got on the Peter Pan bus and I went straight to the Boys and Girls Club. And I spoke with Carlos Garcia. I introduced myself.
I was going to ask you, did you at that point meet Carlos Garcia?
Yeah, when I get there, I got a visitor pass. I met Carlos. I talked to him, explained to him a little bit of my life story, and basically wanted to tell him if he'd be able to help me out. I said, I would come every weekend to train with you. I'll train back home in Springfield, but on the weekend I come train with you so I can get these opportunities. He kind of smirked. He says, I would love to help you. He says, but the only way I can help you is if you lived here where I can train you full time. So I was kind of a little disappointed, but it just got me thinking. So the whole bus ride home, I was like, I'm going to move to Worcester, And I was now 15, turning 16, doing my 10th grade year in school. And that summer, I passed. I turned 16, and I moved to Worcester. And I lived with my aunt for a little bit. She let me stay with her until I was able to get my own place. And I actually became roommates with Bobby Harris.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 17 years old. I was 16. And we had a friend of ours who we used to work for. He used to own Jimbo Sub Shop, sandwiches on downtown Worcester. And we used to work for him, so he co-signed an apartment for us. And and I was able to sign up to school, get a job, join the Boys and Girls Club, and here we are.
Wow.
So you're saying Bobby Harris. Tell people who Bobby Harris is and what he did, because he was very iconic in the boxing world.
Absolutely. Bobby Harris was a phenomenal boxing amateur champion, and he's the Olympic alternate in 1992. That's the year that Oscar De La Hoya won the gold medal, the only gold medal for the U.S.
Wow.
And that year for that Olympics. And Bobby was 2 fights away from representing the United States and representing Worcester in the Olympics. So he was a 3-time national champion, won the silver medal in the World, Junior Worlds, won the Worlds 1 year. I mean, he was just a phenomenal amateur athlete and stuff like that.
So you guys are living together.
Yeah.
You have somebody that's doing some serious things in the business.
Yeah.
Was it nice to have that dialogue around you and that commitment and passion as you're getting ready to embark and reaching your dreams?
Yeah. So it was fun traveling to tournaments together. We used to either fly to the nationals together if we were in the same tournament. Sometimes he was at the nationals and I was at the New England circuit. And then there was a couple times where we were able to go to the same nationals together in Iowa and Arizona. So it was fun, being around. But it wasn't just Bobby, Basically, once I joined the Boys and Girls Club, the boxing team was the family, And when we traveled, we would go to Rhode Island. We go to, all over New England. Holyoke for the Western Mass Golden Gloves, Lowell for the New England Golden Gloves, and then Fall River had their Golden Gloves over there, and then eventually, the nationals and regionals, and it was just a fun time. It's like I have a great relationship with the boxers from back then today.
What did Carlos do for you? Like, what did he mean to you? What was his approach with you that really got you to... Obviously, you picked up and moved to Worcester, so he said something to you that really meant something. But what helped you switch that gear with Carlos?
Yeah. Carlos's strength is, and everybody will say this, he's a motivator. He knows how to get you to work harder and how to say the right words to just believe in yourself, So that played a huge role for all of us, I mean, to have the amount of champions and national champions and Olympic, alternates and trials and stuff, to have that as in his resume just speaks volumes for what type of trainer he was, but he's just a good person, and for him, it was more important for him that we were good people in the community than just boxers. He didn't want us just to be about boxing. He wanted us to give back in the community. He wanted us to be positive people, role models, and stuff like that. So that stuff I learned from Carlos.
So you mentioned earlier that you were struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
You were rebelling a little bit.
Absolutely.
Once you did a nosedive into boxing.
Yeah.
And you started with Carlos. Was that a thing of the past now?
Oh, absolutely. Once I got in the ring, I never got into another street fight in my life. And it was a constant. And it just because once I started boxing and I started getting better and better and better, I just had more confidence in myself, and that street life was not enticing, or I didn't even care. I didn't even bother me that a lot of the friends that I had in the streets that I didn't want to hang around anymore because I knew that lifestyle was going to take me nowhere.
When did the switch come where you had those aspirations when you're 7 that you'd hold one of those belts, or that you wanted to be like that.
Right.
When did you really start to think, this is going to go somewhere?
This is possible. I would say I was about. I just graduated high school. I turned pro at 19, but during the end of my amateur career, it almost like I don't know where the switch came from in the mindset of, because when I first started with Carlos, he would put me in right away with the best. Like he had that much confidence in me. Like in my fifth fight, I'm fighting against a guy who's ranked number 3 in the country. Wow. And I did.
I mean, that speaks volumes about what he thought about your talent, right?
Right. But also, I fought one novice fight, and then after that, he turned me open. So I'm my first year in the Golden Gloves. I'm open class fighting against guys who are 30 years old, 32 years, 33 years old, and you could tell the difference in power when you're fighting kids, teenagers, and then you're fighting men. It's like so. But it just brought a great experience for me. And then now I'm 18, 19, right before I turned pro, and I'm stopping these guys. Where in the beginning of my career, it just went by decision. And towards the end of my career, I'm almost like the strength. I'm starting to learn how to sit down on my punches. I'm knocking guys out in body shots, headshots, combinations, and where I feel like if I do this right, it says I can make it happen. And I turned pro at 19 years old. And I was able to win my first world championship at 24, my second one at 30, and then my third world championship at 33 at the DCU Center.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so
that's got to be amazing to go and win it at the DCU.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. To me, it was more exciting and more happy than when I won in Germany for my second world title.
Of course, it's hometown crowd, right?
Hometown crowd, just something that you dreamed of. Because when I came to Worcester, and before it used to be called the Centrum.
Yeah.
I said I'm gonna fight there someday. What I'm saying, but so to be not only fight there, but to win my third world title there was very exciting.
Yeah.
What type of emotions went through when you held that belt for the first time?
I cried all 3 times. All 3 times that I fought when I won my world titles, I cried. And it also sentimental because every time I was there, I had my mom there and stuff like that. So I knew a lot of emotions going on and stuff like that. But
she was there all 3 fights.
All 3 times.
100%.
Yeah.
Why don't you hold those belts up so the viewers can see it, man? You got 2 of the 3 here today, right?
Yeah, I got 2. The third one, my third world title one, is actually at the Worcester Historical Museum right now. I should be getting it back soon, but this is the first one. Right.
Look at that.
Right there.
Jose, I'll tell you right now, I had an opportunity to hold one of them.
Yeah.
You're getting a workout just holding it. I
that
just
thing,
thought that
yeah.
it was like a paperweight.
No.
That is heavy.
They have some weight. This is the one I won in Germany, the WBA world title. And then the third one is just like this one, but in the junior middleweight division. So it's these 2 were at the welterweight division, 147. And the third one I moved up in weight and junior middleweight. Yeah.
Take us through your most memorable fight.
I would have to say the one I won, my third world title fight. I had gone through a lot of struggles making weight for these 2 fights, and I stood at welterweight far too long. But just a matter of fact, quick story. When I fought for this title, before I fought for this title, I was fighting in Las Vegas for the number 1 world contender spot, and this was in Las Vegas, and the winner obviously fights for the title, and I ended up in the hospital the day before the fight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that because of the dehydration or something?
Everything.
Like that?
It was dehydration. I had the flu. I was bad. Really bad. Even acid reflux. I mean, the doctor said, had I waited a few more hours, my heart would have given out.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. And to me, it bothered me because I worked so hard, and in my mindset, I'm thinking, I'm Superman. I'm an athlete. Like, how does this happen to me?
Yeah.
And that's when I started started learning about the importance of nutrition.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as you heard, I come from the streets, so I have no nutrition value. I didn't grow up with no nutrition value. I ate McDonald's and sub shops and sandwiches and pizzas and stuff, and that's what I grew up on. And as a kid, you get away with a lot of that stuff because, you know, you're young and your body knows how to
deal with it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it catches up to you. And what you don't see is the damage it's doing to the inside at a cellular level. And so that's what was happening with me is little by little inside, it was just catching up to me. And eventually we ended up hiring a nutritionist, and she kind of helped guide me in the right foods to eat, the proper foods to eat before training, after training, before you go to bed, as soon as you wake up. You know, it was like a system. And once I started following that regimen, it got me to the point where I was like feeling really, really good. And it unfortunately happened towards the end of my career, but it was just the knowledge in itself is important because I was able to implement that to my kids.
Yeah,
you know?
now you can stick around longer than you would have otherwise, right?
Exactly.
So the early part of your career, you used an unleaded gas with water in it. Now then you're juicing up with a premium fuel.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was actually one of the doctors who worked for the Boston Red Sox, Dr. Brian Bosconi. He's the one that introduced me to USANA Health Sciences, a nutritional company that I've been taking since 2005.
So when you're getting ready for a fight, right, and you're getting ready to cut weight, how far out do you start? Because like ultimately you want to weigh in just under the weight class, you know, the top of the weight class, right?
Sure.
And then the next day you want to be replenished and ready to go.
Right.
So how far out do you start the cut, and then like how much are you cutting, you know, and what period of time?
Right. So the goal for me was more so on being close to weight the week of the fight. So more so I can just lean off of the, you know, basically at the end it just wanted to be water weight.
Yep.
That I'm cutting off. And the calories, because the week of the fight you're working out less, so you can't take in the same as much as you were taking in when you're training really hard.
Yeah.
So you want to be able on weight or close to it the week before and the week of. So all you're consuming more is less food, but also the water weight is not as high as, you know.
So you guys cut salt too?
I had to cut. Honestly, for me, I cut a lot of stuff, you know. But so salt was important to consume, but also had to cut.
Right. Yeah, and then you do the sauna suits and you get in the sauna and all those things, right?
Yep. Jump rope in the sauna.
All that stuff. That's a crazy regimen, man. But I know a lot of people do it, and they you know, that's kind of the secret to the game, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I'm fascinated by the whole process, actually. So it's pretty cool.
We talk a lot about mindset.
Yeah.
What's your mindset going through there?
Has to be, for me, number one out of everything, whether it's training, you know, everything, the mindset has to be there because all the fights that my mindset was sharp, like positive, great, everything went, mindset is strong. I didn't lose any of those fights, you know, and so mindset is top. My number one thing is you gotta, like I always say, one of the things growing up that I built is you need to believe in yourself, work hard, and never give up. Believe in yourself being the first of everything.
Can you talk about visualization? So you know your opponent, how far out do you think?
It all depends. Some fights, you know,
like the
right,
day of,
the day
right?
you sign the contract, and then sometimes there's a last switch, maybe sometimes a month, sometimes a couple weeks, a week, you know.
Well, let's talk about a title fight.
Yep.
Right? How long do you know who your opponent is before that?
It should be when you sign the contract, which could be anywhere between 12 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then, are you visualizing yourself? Like, talk about your process of visualizing your opponent. Like, you probably have studied them and watched them.
Everything.
Like, all that, right?
Yeah.
But then you're going, like, I can imagine you're going through the fight in your mind.
Absolutely.
All the time, right?
Yes.
Can you talk about that? Like, how do you get yourself, and then talk about, like, how do you visualize yourself standing there, with your arm
raised,
at the end? Like, how do you actually put that intention out there?
Yeah.
So that
So,
it comes to you,
Yeah, you do that. You do that sometimes. You could be just sitting at home, visualizing, but you're doing all that while you're training.
Yeah.
It goes from the time that you're doing your exercises, your jumping rope, your shadow boxing, you're in the bag, mid sparring, double end bag, speed bag. You're playing this over and over and over and over again for 10 to 12 weeks.
How important is that, do you think,
Huge.
to your victory,
Huge.
or the decision, you know what I mean?
Huge. Because if you take a fight and you go in there not visualizing yourself winning, it's going to be a bad night.
Yeah.
You and your head of everything, your heart of hearts and everything, you're going to win this fight. Even if you don't win the fight, but you have to go in there with that mindset.
Yeah.
Because I don't think any fighter at that level, maybe in the beginning, some fighters know this guy's going to beat my butt.
Yeah.
But at that level, two fighters, champions fighting, each fighter is thinking, I'm a win.
Yeah.
Jose, that takes us to this week. And this is jumping a little bit.
Yeah.
And
By the time this airs, it'll already be done.
watch
out for your,
No, so there's the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight coming. But what I'm thinking about, you're saying when you're a fighter, you have to go in the ring and you got to think you're going to win.
Right.
We grew up in the era where Mike Tyson was tearing through and annihilating heavyweight opponents.
Yes.
You saw the same looks in those guys going into those fights. Do you think many of those fighters went in that ring saying, "Dude, I have no chance"?
Oh, absolutely. That happens I think every fighter at every level experiences that, where especially mainly so when they're starting out. They know that this guy is too much, But a lot of fighters take fights for paydays, or an opportunity, but sometimes they bite more than they can chew,
Have you ever doubted yourself?
I've had some fights, which is the ones that I say, not and it's not more so it's just what's going on in life, where you're not able to train 100% for that fight, for that moment. And at that time, whatever's going on in life seems to be more important than the fight,
As a professional athlete, you're 100% in the spotlight, and you look at like the crowd.
Sure.
You're fighting in front of big crowds. When you're winning, sometimes everything's great. But then when you're losing, things might shift a little bit. How do you keep your focus in the middle of a fight when you're preparing for a fight, knowing that you have individuals that are chirping? How do you tunnel vision?
Tunnel vision. Yeah. Don't I could tell you. Tunnel vision. Because when it's me in that ring, all I see is him. All I hear is him. Like it's just us, And I mean, you hear things in the crowd, but you can't. The tunnel vision doesn't allow it to come into your ears to be words. Just people saying stuff. So even I mean, I could tell you fights where I'm in the break. And I'm just watching them and stuff, and they're talking to me, and I don't hear my trainer telling me nothing. I'm just so focused on him and, the next round and stuff like that. So
how important is it when you go into the corner and listening to, if there's something that Carlos is seeing?
Yeah.
How important is that session?
It's important, more so on the fights that are touch and go, It's like it's a really tough fight, and you're looking for something to extra. All right, coach, what's going on?
A little edge.
What am I doing wrong? Or what could I be doing better? That type of stuff.
Yeah, checking your blind spots, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Have you ever went to one of those fights where you're a little overconfident, and all of a sudden you get an uppercut, whatever? Like, oh boy,
A wake up call.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me is I think everybody that I trained for and I fought, I always treated like they were Mike Tyson. So I never went in there thinking, I got this easy, you know. I always want to make sure that I didn't want to get put in that position where I got carried away or let myself get too confident and stuff like that. And I don't want to be that guy.
So Jose, you're 3-time world champion. Now you're giving back to the boxing community. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So my son and my brother and I, we have a promotional company, Rivera Promotions Entertainment, RPE for short, and we run about 3 fights a year, 3 shows a year, where we allow New England, local fighters from New England. It's almost like a springboard to help them catapult their careers, you know, to bigger and better things. I think from my son's perspective, he wants us to be that big promoter, and eventually he can take it there once I hand over the reins to him. I'm content, you know, with my lifestyle and my job, and eventually next year being busy with running for city council. That just using what we've been doing for the last 7 years is helping these fighters showcase their talent and giving them an opportunity to fight locally in front of their fans, which is important because I know there was shows where I fought outside, away from my fans. Some shows that just to get that opportunity, I fought for free, you know.
Yeah.
And so to be able to give these guys an opportunity locally in front of their fans, that's why we call all our shows, most of them, is a series we call New England's Future. You know, this one's New England's Future 17.
Nice.
And it'll be at the Worcester Palladium on Saturday, January 11th.
It's another road trip.
Road trip. Luckily, this one's a close one.
This one's a close one. Yeah, 15, 20 minutes away, right? Yeah.
City Council.
Yeah. And I ran for city council in 2023. I lost by 168 votes. It was a close race, and I ran against an incumbent, and I just felt like it was close enough for me to want to do it again, and it was fun actually. I learned so much from it. I grew a lot from it, and it was more positive than negative. You know, of course, there's always going to be their negative stuff, like, you know, her supporters, obviously doing a lot of social media bashing, and I think most parts that bothered me was more so the lies. You know, it's like, let's keep it fair. You know, let's stick to the facts. And I understand that you don't like me, and you're not supposed to like me if you're supporting my opponent, but you know, make up lies. You know, and I think that's the only thing that bothered me about it. But I'm ready to do it again because it was more so. There was times where I did a lot of door knocking, and I met a lot of her opponents, my opponents' voters, you know, constituents who supported her, but they were very polite, you know, and they were very nice, and they were thanking me for running, you know, and stuff like that, and we had good conversations, built good relationships, and I understood, you know, they supported her before I decided to run against her, and they're still supporting her now, and they'll support her and next year in 2025, and that's fine. But you know, those people, I can have a good, respectful, you know, back and forth, because they, you know, it's about the democracy, you know, just doing what we're supposed to do, you know. But again, you know, you grow from it because you just learn a lot about people and what's important to them, you know, and you just listen on the stories, then what they would like to see happen, and kind of changes they would like to see put into place, and you know, it kind of touches at you. And it's like, you know, if I win, then definitely I tell them all the time is, I need you to hold me accountable. You know, remember I told you I'm going to do this for you? I says, stay on me, you know, because I want to be the type of city councilor that does what he says he's going to do, and not just talks to get elected, you know.
Yeah. So what compels you to throw your hat into the political ring, so to speak? You know, you're in the boxing ring. You reach the pinnacle. You reach the very top, right? World champ. You now have a promotions company that you've been doing for some time now. So why step into politics? What compels you to do that?
So, when I moved to Worcester, when I told you guys when I moved to Worcester and I lived with Bobby Harris when I was 16, we lived right on Franklin Street, which is right across the street from City Hall. And so I saw that every day. And then I always wondered what goes on in that building and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I was about 18, I joined up with the United Way. We had, apparently, the Boys and Girls Club is funded, a lot of their money comes from the United Way. And Carlos introduced me to them, and he says that this kid has an amazing story. You should use him for your United Way campaigns to try to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. So that's what they did. And for 2 years, I went around through the whole city, companies, talking about my story and how the Boys and Girls Club helped change my life and kept me off the streets. And they raised an amazing amount of money, apparently, because I was awarded with Speaker of the Year 2 years in a row for the United Way. And throughout that time, I got to meet a lot of the politicians through not just the United Way, but also through my boxing career and some of them city councilors and the mayor and stuff like that. And I got to see what they do and stuff. I said, I definitely would like to do that someday. And then I started working for the Massachusetts trial courts, and I just got to see a lot of stuff separately, but almost similar, working in the court system that I just felt like, definitely I'm going to do this someday. But my boxing career just kind of kept me more busy, and then my family and the kids. And then I was turning 15 years old in 2023, and it says, if I don't do it now, then I'm not going to do it, if I don't just make the leap. So I did. I did it. I did it right before I turned 50. I turned 50 in April of 23 last year, and then, like I said, I lost 568 votes. So
That's a close one, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still 168 votes, but I just feel like if I knocked on more doors and there's a lot of things that I feel like I learned from the first time that I can change, that I think that can help kind of change the results. I'm hoping. So that's what I'm going to do now next year, 2025. Just hopefully I reach out to more people and the right people, and I can get more people involved as well, because there's a lot of people say, I want to help, I support you, but, when it comes down to it, I need them to put that into action,
What's your message to the voters?
Well, my message is always, like I want to listen, and I want to understand where they're coming from. Not every voter has the same concern. Some of them, like for city councilor, it's like the charter, the city, they call it the charter. This is the city councilors go by and the mayor and stuff. Is very small. We don't do a lot of. It's not a state rep. You're not a state senator. You're not a congressman. You're not a governor. You're a city councilor. So you're focusing on safe streets. You're focusing on sidewalks, clean streets, sidewalk. Stop signs, trees, neighborhood things. It's like and a lot of times they want to get off of the what's important to the residents. Trash. Something like stuff like that, obviously you want clean parks, good for the neighborhood, for the kids. So those type of things that I think is important to them, just kind of be attentive. They want a city councilor. A lot of city councilors don't understand is that it's not our seat. We show up on Tuesday night for the meetings because they elected us to represent them. But we can't go up there just showing what we care about and what we want to do. We need to listen more to the residents, and when we speak there on Tuesday nights, it's not based on what we want, but more so about what they want.
Yeah.
So,
Jose, you've lived an absolutely tremendous life, and here we talk about reaching the apex. You've reached the apex at multiple levels in your life. What is some advice you would give your younger self?
I think knowing now what I know, I think I should have gotten involved more in investing in property. I think that would help. Set my retirement up better. But also being able to leave my kids something as well. I think that's one of the things if I'm looking at from that perspective. But I think throughout my whole life, I've always tried to teach my kids the importance of believing in yourself, working hard, and never giving up. And the world is our oyster, right? So anything we put out there that we want, as long as we're willing to work for it, I always feel like whether it happens or not, there's always going to be a door open just because you put in the work for it.
That's a great message.
It's a great message. I think we can have a little fun here right now. So by the time this airs, the big Netflix event will be over.
Yeah.
Let's do a little prediction. Jose, what's going to happen? Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. Now, we're not talking what's going to happen to Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas. We're talking about 58-year-old Tyson and Jake Paul. What's your prediction?
Well, I just feel this fight is more like a exhibition fight. I wouldn't characterize it as a big championship fight. Jake Paul has 10 pro fights. He's nowhere near at the level of a world championship fighter, but he's fighting a 57-year-old Mike Tyson. So I just feel like they're going to respect each other. They're going to work with each other. Maybe Jake Paul wins the decision,
You heard it here first.
Bob, what do you think?
Well, I'm no boxing, aficionado. I'm not professional on this, but my 10-year-old self wants to see Mike Tyson go and lay him out. That's really it's reliving my childhood. Really,
I just don't think that he would get this opportunity if he was able to let loose like that. I'm not saying it's choreographed or wrestling, nothing like that. But I just think it's gonna be more PG than rated R.
Yeah.
My thoughts since most of Tyson's fights in the last 20 years or so have been gimmicks.
Right.
And I don't think this is going to be anything different.
Right.
Like I said, I'd love to see him lay him out.
Right. I'm sure everybody would.
I think that we all always wish to see that Tyson fighter come back and never really came back again. And we always, $69 million is being laid in the line between two fighters because there's the hope of seeing that again. And I think there's going to be some disappointed individuals Friday night.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Honestly, I don't think they should be disappointed. I mean, they're putting their money on 57-year-old Mike Tyson, just hoping that it's that, 20-year-old kid that won a world championship. Those days are over.
Yeah.
Who's your top 5 boxers of all time?
That I witnessed fighting?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a tough one because I've witnessed some great fighters. But I would say that in my lifetime, so I'm not going to go back before that, I would have to put up there, and I won't put them in order, just top 5 that I loved the most to watch. Maybe I'm going to go over a little over 5, but I'll start with Roberto Duran. I have to throw in Sugar Ray Leonard in there, Marvin Hagler, Mike Tyson, Julio Cesar Chavez, Roy Jones Jr., and Felix Trinidad.
That's a great list. Yeah.
That's a great list.
I agree with all of them, actually.
Those guys brought a lot of joy to my life.
They were so much fun.
Yeah,
much fun.
But they're good. Like all those fighters you see is, because you've had greater fighters than that. I mean, not greater, but like Hector Macho Camacho. Also great fighter. But these fighters were all elite, and besides Tyson. Not elite, but I'm saying what I was going to say next is they're all elite, but then they were good, good people, good human beings, And so I respected that about them, you know. Not that Tyson wasn't, but he had his crazy side to him, you know.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, man, I was just mesmerized by his power and his fighting and training, and I was like, man, that guy's amazing.
Coming into the ring like a gladiator with
Yeah.
the towel cut out, you know, like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That was
just
crazy.
right.
I'm 51 years old, and I remember being in high school and watching the events. Still have never watched events. They never had the anticipation for a fight or any sporting event the way you ever did when you watched a Tyson fight.
Yeah.
Even if you knew it was over in 30 seconds,
But I think at that point, people already were knowing. They were like, man, if it lasted more than a round, they're like, oh man, you know, they were disappointed, you know.
Yeah. So,
even though they spent thousands of dollars for front row seats, you know.
Right. Yeah. So let me ask you. So you won your first title in Germany, right?
No, in Springfield,
It's
Massachusetts.
Springfield, right?
Yeah.
So that day that you won that title, what changed for you?
So not much, because at that point, I'm rising in the rankings, and I got the opportunity. Like I said, I was 24 years old. I fought for the IBO World Championship, and so the IBO World Championship is obviously one of the top 5, but it's almost like not the WBA or WBC or IBF. And then and that's what I was after. That's all I, visioned. So I was like, I got an opportunity now I'm in the top 10 in the world and all the major sanctioning bodies, and I get an opportunity to fight Fernando Vargas on HBO. And the winner of that fight is fighting for the IBF Junior Middleweight World Championship. And a couple weeks before the fight, I tore my tendons in my wrist. So obviously the fight didn't happen, and I also lost an opportunity to make $250,000, which would have been my biggest payday at the time. And I lost. I was stripped of the IBO World Championship, so I was no longer world champion because it took me a year to recover and get back to fighting. And they said in order, to get basically is I would have to start almost like I had to start all over to get another world championship opportunity. So I turned pro at 19, and at 24, I fought for my first world title. Now it's 30 years old before I got a second opportunity to fight in Germany. So it was a lot of patience, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of setbacks, and but not giving up on myself is kind of catapulted me to this opportunity.
And that was WBA.
That's the big one. The one that I was telling you about, the fight before, I ended up in the hospital, and then we went through all that thing.
Yep.
That happened in February. In September of 2003 was when I got an opportunity to fight for the WBA title, regardless. Although I got sick and stuff like that.
So then your life kind of changed then I would think, yeah.
At that point now, a lot of the recognition worldwide came,
Yeah. So how did day-to-day life change for you from the moment you won that?
Just more recognition in the city, more recognition outside, bigger fight opportunities.
You were getting recognized out on the street.
Sure, yeah.
How did that feel?
I felt good, but I just carried myself as just Jose, So I never fed into none of it, because I always knew that boxing was short term, and I also had my life up, and I was working a full-time job. Right now we're working for the state. I'm going on my 24 years for the Massachusetts trial court, so that's where my family's health insurance comes from. My retirement's going to come from. It wasn't from boxing, so I just felt like I needed to stay grounded and just not change much about that.
Yeah, that's good advice too.
Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. Yeah. What an amazing story, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
I appreciate you having me.
Jose, like I said, I've watched your journey ever since I came to Worcester in 1990. I've watched your professional journey just take off, and just watching 3 championships, counsel, everything, and you're a pillar of the community.
Thank you.
You just continue to go, and just the best of luck to you in everything that you do.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So how can people connect with you if they wanted to, your socials or?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Jose Antonio Rivera. On Instagram, Jose Rivera Champ. I also have Vote Jose Rivera on Instagram, Vote Jose Rivera on Twitter. That's my political accounts. And Vote Jose Rivera at gmail.com if any messages and stuff like that.
Yeah, awesome. Dennis,
It's go time.
it's go time.